Step into the routine of another day. Little choices stack. What to say at the meeting, whether to reply to that comment, whether to buy the thing that promises a tiny lift. These moments feel ordinary, private, entirely yours. You assume the decisions come from reason, from taste, from who you think you are. But imagine a shadow that follows every one of those small moves. Not a weather shadow, not a mood, but a single ancient pressure that presses behind your choices. It's quiet. It's mostly invisible. It doesn't shout. It whispers in the margins of your thoughts. As you reach for certainty, it nudges. As you reach for comfort, it steadies your hand. What if I told you that lurking behind almost every belief you defend and every value you hold is a single, primal terror that most of us never see coming? Not a metaphor, but a force psychoscientists have tracked and tested in lab after lab. Listen closely. You are going to die. That sentence lands like a cold breath. It's brief, it's factual, and for most of us it's the one thing we refuse to let become a frame for the rest of our lives. But when it does, even for a few moments, it alters everything. You may not notice the change, but the world around you will. The choices you thought were yours will look different in the light of that realization. It's a body of research with roots in an unlikely place. A book written by Ernest Becker, a cultural anthropologist who tried to make sense of the oddities of human motivation. Becker was gaunt, intense, a man who thought deeply about how culture arranges our fears and our comforts. In 1973, he published The Denial of Death, a book that argued something radical. Much of human culture, religion, art, politics, status rituals, can be read as attempts to manage the terror of mortality. There's an irony in Becker's own story. He published that book, then shortly afterward died of cancer. 2 months later, the book won a Pulitzer. The timing made the point painfully literal. He had written about death and then left us, leaving the book as part of his legacy. For many, Becker's claim felt poetic but speculative. How do you move from a sweeping cultural thesis to testable, repeatable findings? Sheldon Solomon, Jeff Greenberg, and Tom Pazinski. They read Becker and asked a scientist's question. What if we could make the terror of death momentarily present and then watch what people do? They translated Becker's big idea into experiments you could run in a lab or a classroom. Their project became known as terror management theory, a name that sounds clinical, but under it sat a simple, unnerving hypothesis. Reminders of mortality change how people think and behave, often in ways that protect their cultural worldviews and their sense of worth. They didn't stop at one experiment. They created dozens, refined methods, discussed controls and confounds, and published results that other researchers could replicate. Over time, the work expanded beyond a single lab. Researchers across disciplines and countries began testing similar ideas. The question shifted from whether Becker was right in broad strokes to how deep and consistent the effects actually were. And the answers, when they came, were both robust and disturbing. The experiment these researchers used was brilliantly simple and quietly invasive. You recruit 2 groups of people. To one group, you present a neutral task. Describe your typical day, list groceries, answer routine questions. To the other group, you slip in 2 different questions. What do you think happens when you die? And describe the emotions you feel when you think about your own death. Just a few sentences, a brief focus on mortality, a momentary pause for thought. Afterwards, both groups are asked to evaluate other people, to weigh in on moral cases, to rate essays or political opinions. The only difference between the groups is those few lines that made death temporarily salient. What happens next is the catalyst. The mortality-salient participants shift. They become more defensive of their cultural worldview and more punitive toward those who violate it. They favor harsher punishments for transgressors, rate opposing political views more negatively, and show increased prejudice against outgroups. They also cling harder to symbols that promise meaning: flags, traditions, status markers. What makes this more than a quirky lab result is how reliably it replicates. The same pattern appears with subtle priming, even when death reminders are subliminal, flashed on a screen for milliseconds. It appears across ages and settings, in varied cultural contexts. The research has been replicated in well over 24 countries, with many tweaks and controls, and the effect persists. That global scope matters. It suggests we're not looking at a parochial quirk of one culture, but at a cognitive dynamic tied to the human condition. Visualize the method as a comic sequence, a panel of neutral everyday tasks, then a jolt, a question about death. The shift is subtle at the moment, but it ripples outward into decisions that shape how groups treat one another, how societies punish, and how individuals seek worth. When reminders of mortality circulate, even faintly, people's behavior hardens. They grow more tribal. They see threats where none existed. The implications are not merely academic. They map onto real-world crises. Imagine rallies with banners, parades of soldiers, courtrooms, and pulpits, all walking as if tethered to the same unseen anchor. In the courtroom, a judge bangs a gavel with certainty, convinced the harsh sentence prevents chaos. In the political arena, opponents are reduced to caricatures, enemies to be defeated rather than citizens to persuade. In social media arguments, simple differences escalate into personal annihilation. The crimson skull, the comic accent, sits beneath people's feet, unseen by them but coloring their actions. These shifts feed cycles of escalation. A population nudged toward fear becomes more likely to support war, to endorse stricter laws, to scapegoat minorities. Leaders who sense this fear can stoke it, promising safety through exclusion, order through punishment, identity through loyalty. Even everyday choices, clinging to material symbols, pursuing status, or broadcasting accomplishments, can be responses to a deeper need, to feel that one's life matters in ways that outlast the body. Consider the image of a person explaining a decision, their speech bubble full of logical arguments, data points, moral phrases. They believe themselves rational. They may even be right about particulars, but beneath the rhetoric is a running imperative, to shore up a self that feels fragile. That tension between apparent reason and hidden motive is the crisis. It means many of our loudest moral claims, our fiercest defenses, might be driven less by deliberation than by an effort to soothe an existential ache. If this sounds bleak, the research offers not just diagnosis, but direction. Becker called our efforts to transcend death immortality projects, the ways we anchor ourselves to something enduring, nation, faith, art, family, or reputation. Those projects can be noble and generative. They can give life meaning and organize communities. The problem arises when the project becomes defensive, a brittle structure built from fear. There is a different pathway. Studies show that people with secure self-esteem, who feel competent, socially connected, and valued on stable grounds, are less likely to react aggressively when reminded of mortality. Similarly, those who have consciously reflected on death often describe a paradoxical freedom, a slowing down, a reordering of priorities toward relationships, small kindnesses, and projects that feel intrinsically meaningful rather than merely status-driven. Think of two figures in split panels. One grips a flag and trophies, posture defensive, eyes darting for threats. The other sits quietly, a small chest light glowing, steady and unpressured. Both want to matter, but the second has cultivated a center that doesn't need constant validation. That doesn't erase fear. Practically, the path toward that steadiness is messy but clear in pattern. Build relationships that are genuine and reciprocal. Pursue goals that reward growth rather than only external applause. Cultivate practices that invite reflection, reading, conversation, facing losses with support. Therapy, honest dialogue, and experiences that expand perspective, travel, grief work, creative practice, can weaken the reflexive terror management responses. The result is not immortality. It's the ability to choose with clarity, to let values arise from flourishing rather than fear. So what do you do with this knowledge? Start small and keep it personal. The next time anger spikes at an opposing opinion, pause. Ask, am I reacting to the person or to a deeper sense of threat? When you want to buy something to feel better, ask, am I chasing status or tending to a real need? Those questions are simple tools for interrupting automatic responses. Voter in a booth, a commenter hitting post, a shopper filling a cart. Awareness doesn't guarantee change, but it gives you the possibility of choice. This isn't a promise to remove fear or to make life easy. It's an invitation to look, to turn, briefly and calmly, toward the shadow rather than letting it pull you. The final image returns to that ordinary morning from the beginning. The same person, same coffee, same panel order. Only now they turn and look at the skull behind them. The shadow is still there. Death remains. But the person's expression is steady. They're not running. They're present. They have the chance to act with awareness.